Hey guys, welcome back to this video. In this video, what I'll be covering will be a technical audit or a website audit, specifically for an e-commerce website. So what I'll be going through with you guys will be, first of all, what to look for and what is important and why are we looking for certain stuff during the audit and why is an audit important. Second of all, what we're going to do is we're going to set things up so you can see on my screen here. This is a template that I've created for you guys to use it, but with every videos that I do, I usually tell you guys that you need to learn a little bit about Google Sheets, how to use them effectively and certain elements, because eventually, you know, the things that you look at will change depending on what your framework is or what your focus is. And some of the times Google algorithm happens and Google core update happens. And based off on that, the things that are important as of this moment might be different from, let's say, 1 or 2 years down the road. So you might need to tweak and change your template a little bit. So with a template like this, you know, I personally have changed multiple times throughout my course of optimizing and doing technical audit for all my clients. And you should do too, because, you know, what works today might not work tomorrow. Right, and then next up, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the specific audit. So I'll show you step by step and kind of behind the shoulder on my screen how to actually conduct the audits. And then after that, once the audit is done, we will then go into the recommendations of what is needed and things like that. So I've selected a random website in a market that I know a little bit about, which is in a fitness market, because with that, it will allow me to illustrate more in terms of letting you guys know what's important, simply because I know, you know, the fitness market and the terms and whatnot. All right, so let's get straight into it. So the first things first, why website quality, why website audit or technical audit or whatever you want to call it, right? It's why this section is important. It's because every single time when you want to launch a campaign, you need to make sure that the foundations are set up correctly. And if the foundations are set up correctly, what you will notice is whatever things that you will do afterwards with regards to search engine optimization, because the technicality part is set up correctly, the chances of you seeing a ROI in terms of your link budget or in terms of your content budget is going to be a lot more. And the reason why is because there's no technicality issue hindering the performance of your website. So what we like to do is I always like to run a technical audit for a website first, just to make sure that we get this out of the way, get a foundation set up, done properly, so that we can move on to future stuff like creating content or even creating backlinks. And when this is being completed, chances are the ROI for the backlinks and content will be a lot more, will yield a lot more ROI. Okay, so there are some specific things that we'll be looking at. We'll be looking at, first of all, the data. Okay, so as you can see this template right here, you can see there's some data that we'll be making use of. And this data are all important because if you have an existing website, if you have an existing e-commerce site, or you are doing this for another for another website, right? The more data you have, the better it is to make every recommendation or any kind of recommendations, because then you're not just working off blindly. You are looking at the data and determining which pages you should be focusing on first because of this certain metric, and depending on what matrix you're looking at. And simply with more data, it will allow you to make better and more accurate decisions in terms of SEO. Okay, so that's why it's important. I'll be looking at some of these data during the rest of the video. So next up, what we'll be doing is we'll be setting up. So in the setup phase, very easy. There should be a resource down below. Just click on the link, and what you want to do is you want to make a copy of the template, and you will get this template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to set things up, because, you know, it's really important that you set up correctly. And again, just another disclaimer, you want to be able to change the template along the way as you go, because like I mentioned, specific brands, or if let's say you're looking at a specific metric that's more important to you, you wanna include that in here. And if not, if there's some columns or there's some metrics that you don't like, you can just remove it here. It's always best to have that kind of flexibility. Okay, so first things first, let's take a look at the template I have for you. So this template now, in integrates a few data. The first data that we'll be looking at will be Ahrefs. Now, the reason why we have Ahrefs, and you're not sure what Ahrefs is basically a SEO software that provides you with a ton of data with regards to keyword research, with regards to keyword volume, cost per click, and things like that, right? So with Ahrefs, what we want to have in here, the reason why we want to link it up in our audit is because we want to find out on a link level, on a backlink level, how many pages does a page, how many links does a page have, right? So that's why Ahrefs is in here. Second one is obviously you need a software to crawl a website, because if not, you cannot do a technical audit without it. So what we do is we use Screaming Frog, and I believe this is for free. So Ahrefs is a paid tool. So if you don't want to include a paid tool in here, if you don't want to use a paid tool, you can always choose to not include this data in here. But like I mentioned, the more data that you have, the better it is, or the clearer it is to make decisions based off on the data, right? So Ahrefs, if you cannot get it, it's perfectly fine. The minimum tool that you need to have will be a crawling software. So we use Screaming Frog, and for Screaming Frog, I believe it's free up to 500 URLs. So if your website has less than 500 pages, you can go ahead and download this. If it's more, then you obviously need to pay a license for it. Okay. Now, Screaming Frog is just a software that allows us to see how many pages they are, and basically kind of mimic what Google will do, and crawl all the pages that is on your website. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is we want to include in Google Search Console. So if you already have it, if you have not watched the previous video about foundations and setting up, I mentioned Google Search Console, GSC, a lot of times, why it's important. So if you want to, you can go and check out the previous videos. But we want to include in Google Search Console because we want to look at on the SERPs, so on every search engine results page, we want to see which pages gets the most click, and as well as their impressions, because this will let us know which pages we want to look at first, which pages gets the most clicks as of this moment, and which pages appears on Google the most, right? So this is Google Search Console. This is entirely free of charge. The next one will be Google Analytics. So kind of the similar concept. With Google Analytics, we want to look at the traffic for each individual page, and everything that we'll be looking at will be in terms of organic traffic, right? So we want to look at how much traffic is coming to that specific page, because then we'll have more data on individual pages as compared to just on just one whole domain, right? Because with every individual page, we'll know exactly what's the profile like for every individual URL. Okay, so that's why we want to have analytics in there, and it also tells us a little bit of stuff like the bounce rate and time on page, and kind of let us know how users are engaging with that specific page before we even decide. And it can be really helpful to help you decide whether should you go in and optimize the design or change the design based off on the user matrix. That's why we have this in here. Okay, so these are the 4 things that we work with. If you don't have Ahrefs, that's perfectly fine. You can do well with Screaming Frog, with Google Search Console and Analytics, and I'll show you how to link them up. Now, before we link them up, you can see over the next section. Okay, in the next section here, this will tell you what you need to do, how you can set things up, where to look for. Okay, and also at the same time, this will tell you specifically like what you should be setting up. Okay, and then after that will be the cleanup. So I'm going to walk you through step by step. So the website that will be auditing will be an e-commerce website. So this e-commerce website, because like I mentioned, I selected a random fitness website because I'm interested in the fitness space. So this is the website that will be auditing. This is a movement called Movement First. Okay, so it's a Singapore-based e-commerce website. So what you want to do is you basically want to get everything set up. Okay, so if you have Ahrefs, get it ready. If you're Screaming Frog, get it ready. So what we do, okay, it's you first of all need to go open up Screaming Frog. Now, scrolling sometimes take a little bit of time. So what I've done is I've already went in and crawled the website. As you can see over here. Okay, let me move it down here. Okay, so as you can see over here, I've already crawled the website because I don't want to put you guys through a waiting time. So what you're going to do, right, is you're going to open up Screaming Frog. Okay, and assuming if you have less than 500 URLs or 500 pages, then you can use it for free. If not, you need to get a license. So few things first. The first thing, you want to go under API access. Okay, under configuration, you want to go to API access and you want to hit analytics. Okay, and you basically now, because this is a random website, so obviously I don't have access to Google Analytics for this account. But what you're going to do is you're going to go into Google Analytics, you're going to click on integration, okay, and you're going to select the account that is linked to your website. Okay, so obviously if you're doing this for a website that you don't have access to, then you have lesser data to work with. Okay, so what you do is you hit on connect to a new account and you basically select the account that is linked to this specific site. The next thing you want to do is we always want to work with consistent data. Okay, so for example, if we are looking at a year's worth of data, we want to make sure that on every single platform, we are looking at a year's of data. Because if we look at 6 months data on Google Search Console and we look at 9 months data on Google Analytics, that will give us a little bit of inconsistency, because we are kind of comparing apple to orange, right? So if you are taking 6 months of data from GSC, we want to take 6 months of data from GA, which is Google Analytics. Similarly, we want to take 6 months of data from whatever that we are doing, right? Because this makes everything a lot more clearer and a lot more consistent. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go to data range and you want to select, basically what I like to do is I like to select a year. So for example, if I want to end it in 1st June, okay, what I will do is I will then select 1st of June 2021. Okay, so this makes 1 year. Now I'm going to remember this date because what I'm going to do next is for Google Search Console and as well as for Ahrefs or any kind of data that I'll be working with, I will make sure that the data is extracted from this specific range. So next up, if you go over the matrix, this is basically what matrix you want Screaming Frog to crawl or to include it in. Now, with matrix, you obviously, again, like I mentioned, if you want to check more things, you can obviously have them in here. But what we do is we remove anything that I deem that it's not useful. So if we go over here, usually what I like to do, I like to cancel away everything. Okay, let me just cancel this part out. Okay, and you can see from this. So you can see from the settings here, what we want to do is we want to look at under sessions, we want to look at the sessions and bounce rate, okay, and the average time on page. Now sessions is obviously tracks how much traffic is coming to that individual page. Bounce rate, it's what's the bounce rate of that specific page? That means how fast are people clicking away, okay? And then page tracking will be tracking every individual page, what is the average time a person spends on that page, to let us know whether, so for example, if somebody is spending like 2 seconds on that page, this tells us that that page might not be matching searcher's intention, or it could be a page that needs further work because people are not interacting with that page. They are not staying on the page, right? So that's why we have average time on page here. And then with goals, we want to find out which pages drives the most goals, which pages drives the most leads, which pages drives the most conversions and things like that. Okay, so with that, what you do is you go over to API, Google Analytics, and under Matrix, okay, I'm going to close everything down. So under Matrix, we're going to go to Sessions, and we're going to GA and Bounce Rate, okay, which is GA and Bounce Rate, these two. Next up, what we do is we go over to Page Tracking, and then we just want to select Average Time on Page, okay? And then under Goals, now obviously, if this is an e-commerce site, what I'll be doing is I'll look at the transactions, okay? And also the transaction value, revenue, because that's more important, okay? Because this is an e-commerce site. Now, some e-commerce site or some e-commerce websites, they also have some form of lead generation going on. And if obviously that is that, you want to select goals and you want to click on goal conversion rate, goal completions, and values for all. Okay, so this is what you would do. And what you do is you can leave the rest of it as per normal, and you want to hit OK. Okay, so that is for Google Analytics. So once you've got Google Analytics set up, next thing you want to do is you want to go over to the next column here and look at Google Search Console. So for Google Search Console, kind of the same concept. You want to go to Google Search Console and you want to basically connect to your account. Okay, but before you connect, you need to go to search analytics. And remember earlier on regarding the consistency of data, you need to make sure that this is 2022 and this is 2021 so that the data that you are looking at or you're pulling, it's all consistent. Okay, and then next up, you'll see over here, what you need to do is you then need to filter out by the specific country. Okay, and the reason why you want to do this is because let's say you're working on your Singapore site. You are not targeting any traffic that's coming from US or Malaysia or Indonesia, for example. So it's good that you only look at the traffic that makes sense, makes the most sense, or is the most relevant. Because if you were to filter all of the traffic, what's going to happen is your website might be getting a lot of traffic, but actually majority of them are not your target audience. And a lot of them are maybe from Malaysia. But if you extract that into your website, what's going to happen is you're going to be optimizing your page based off on traffic coming from Malaysia, which is ideally not your target audience, right? Because then you will find that most of the time you'll find that your bounce rates are high and people are not spending time on your page. And because they don't get what they want when they land on your page. If they are looking for a product in Malaysia, but they land on your page which only serves Singapore, that's the reason why you can see like all the metrics are just all over the place. However, if you select your country to your target audience, then sometimes you might find that actually the user engagement is great. But if you don't do this, then what you're going to have is you're going to have a incorrect or incorrect data to work with. So that's why you want to select the country. Okay, so what we do is we basically select country filter and you just select. So for instance, this is going to be Singapore. Okay, because this is obviously a Singapore site. Now, if your website targets multiple countries, then obviously you can select none. Okay, and this will just bring in all the traffic. But if you are only targeting one specific country in Singapore, just Singapore, then you want to select Singapore. Okay, and then basically that is all that is required. Once your date is set up right, your country filter is set up, that's all you need to do. Okay, and all you have to do is hit OK, and then you will get connected. Last but not least will be Ahrefs. Now Ahrefs, because it's a paid tool, so you need to be on their paid plan to have access to their API. And if you have access to their API, it's actually very simple. All you have to do is just, there's not much configuration setup. You just need to grant access, connect your Ahrefs setup, and you're good to go. There's no need to like go in and set the date and stuff like that, because what you're looking at is you're looking at the number of links. Okay, so the date is not that important. So let's assume that I've set all of this up, because obviously I don't have access to this Google Analytics because this is a random website I'm working on. But yeah, so what you're going to do is you're going to go into your configuration, you're going to click on spiders, okay, and you're going to make sure that the defaults are being set up. Okay, you don't need to mess around with a lot of stuff with this. Obviously, Screaming Frog can do a lot of technical stuff, like even I myself have a lot more to learn about technicality. So it's just a very robust tool. But right now what we are doing is we don't need to look at all this. We don't need to look at more than we need to. Okay, so one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you crawl the sitemap of the website. So if your website has a sitemap, you want to take this and include in your sitemap here, just to make Screaming Frog crawl your website a little bit better, because they know the pages that you have on your sitemap is basically the pages that they will crawl. Okay, and this is basically it. You can leave the rest. As is. Okay, and then what you do is hit OK, and you put in the website, and you hit start. So what's going to happen, right? It's you're going to see this API. Okay, if it reaches 100%, it means to say that everything you've done has been set up correctly. Now, if you don't, then there's something wrong with your connection. You want to go back to look at your GSC, GA, or your Ahrefs, because something is not set up correctly. Either you linked the wrong account or the account wasn't linked correctly and stuff like that, right? But if everything is set up correctly, the API is going to read 100%, and you basically allow time to crawl. Okay, so depending on how big your website is, if your website has over thousands of pages, you're going to take a little bit of time to crawl the website. Okay, so this is what I've done beforehand, because like I mentioned, I don't want to waste any time. So what you want to do after you finish the crawl, okay, you will see this. This will show you all the pages and all the assets and content type that that Screaming Frog has crawled. but you don't need to look at all this stuff. Okay, what we want to do is we only want to look at the HTML. Okay, and this will be all the URLs that we'll be looking at. So with Screaming Frog, there will already be a few things that you can see. Okay, you'll be able to see the overview, and this will immediately show you a few quick wins. So like for example, there are, let's say, pages that are missing page titles, they have duplication, or the page titles are too long and stuff like that. Okay, and this will show you like the meta description, it's missing, or there's duplication of meta description. So it already gives you off the bat a few things that you can already look at. So what we like to do is, so I'm gonna go back and select summary, and we're gonna crawl data, and we're gonna only look at HTML. So what we want to do now is we want to export all of this out to our template. So what you want to do is hit export, and then you can just name this as is, and then just click save. Okay, and let me just check if all the things that I have in here is right. Where is links? Let me see, links. All right, so we have that. So what I'm going to do is, you don't want to close this page first, because what you want to do is you want to click on file and you want to hit save. Okay, and you want to save this crawl somewhere else, and the reason why is because you will need to come back to it to look at specific things, like what are the pages linking to that specific page. And if you click this, you can see what pages are linking to this page, okay, and what this page is linking out to. So it's good to have your crawl saved, because if not, what's going to happen is, if you want to find data like that again, you'll need to go back and recrawl your site, which is a hassle. So for now, if you're auditing this straight away on the get-go, and you're going to do it in one complete session, just leave this on, just leave it in the background. Okay, so next, what we're going to do is we're going to import that that data that we just have. So first, it's all right. Sorry about that. I just need to on the light because it was getting a little bit dark. So what we're going to do is we're going to export the data out into this tab, which is called the Screaming Frog Export. Okay, so how you do that is basically go to File, Import, and you want to upload the file that you have created, okay, that you have saved. Okay, and from this list, what you want to do is you want to hit Append to Current Sheet. Okay, and you want to hit Import Data. So what's going to happen is it's going to bring all the data within here, and you can see some of the columns here are highlighted. These are the columns that we will be looking at, and this is conditional formatted. So again, it's always good to learn a little bit about conditional formatting, just so you can work around with data a little bit more efficiently. And what you want to do is you basically want to just select the things that are required and paste this over here. Okay, so you can see all the yellows are taken from all the yellows here. Okay, so obviously I think there's easier ways to do this, but this is just how I've been doing it, and it works perfectly fine. So first things first, you go over the address. What we're going to do is we're going to copy this whole thing. Okay, and we're going to copy this here. Okay, next up, what we're going to do is we're going to basically just go copy the content one by one. So content type, we're going to look for content type. There's somewhere here. Content type, here it is. Okay, and status code. And then we'll look at indexability. Okay, all these are basically what we look at to see what we should do, what's the current condition of this page, of this website, and what we should do for every individual page based off on what they are already doing, if that makes sense. So again, you can see there's some red color stuff going on. It's because again, these has been auto conditional formatted. Okay, so with page title, later on I'll explain to you why it's red and why it's not. Okay, but let me just get these copied first. Header ones and a number of words. Okay, canonical link. word count. Crawl depth. Right, so it's basically just a mix and match. So obviously, like I mentioned, right, if you know how to work around with Google Sheets, I'm pretty sure there's an easier way for you to do this. It's just that I'm too used to doing it like that, and I'm pretty sure there's an easier way for me to just match everything up. But again, it works for me. So got that in. See what else. Okay, so href backlinks. So there is a few things that is not highlighted here, and you can easily fix this with conditional formatting, right? And that's why, like I mentioned, it's always good to learn conditional formatting. So what is missing here will be the links. Okay, so you can see hrefs links. Okay, and basically what we want to do is we want to look at the number of referring domains for that specific website. Okay, I personally don't look at links, and the reason why is because sometimes one website might send 10 links, but it's actually from one website. So I look at referring domains instead of looking at the number of links. Okay, and that's that. And obviously you want to copy all those stuff that are important, like for example, your if you have your Google Search Console set up, you'll be able to copy in your clicks, impressions, click-through rate, sessions, goal completion, and other stuff like that. Okay, but since we have this is basically what we're going to work on. Now, I am going to, so for one thing here, I don't use this. I'm going to delete this. Okay, so I'm going to walk through with you. So that's essentially how you take what you have in Screaming Frog and put them into this audit template. So the next thing that you'll be looking at, it's all these things over here. I'll be sharing with you what specifically are all these things. So you can see URL action here. This is basically what we're going to be doing for this specific column here, for this specific URL. Okay, you can see every individual web page here. Okay, this is specifically like what are we going to do with it? Are we going to leave it? Are we going to update it? Are we going to do on-page optimization? Are we going to do a 3-1 redirect? Are we going to canonicalize it? Are we going to block? Everything will be here. Okay. URL action 2 is kind of like, if we were to do this, is there any follow-up action that we need to do, right? So this is just for additional stuff that if we need to do it, we'll do it here. Okay, and then this is obviously the address, and then here will be the final URL. So for example, if you are redirecting to a new URL or new or existing URL, this is what we will include it in here. So we know that this is the final URL that this page will turn into. Okay, next up will be category. Now, what we like to do is we like to categorize each individual page into different page types. Okay, and the reason why this allows us to make bulk decisions a lot faster. So you can see this list. Okay, there is over 600 plus pages. If we are making decision on every single individual page by page, one column, one row by one row, it's going to take us a lot of time, and that's why we need to bulk things up together. Because what usually happens is pages of the same characteristics will likely be implemented a certain way. So what we want to do is we want to bulk everything together. So for example, if this is a product page, we're going to list down as a product page. If this is a product category, we're going to list down as a product category and whatnot. Okay, so this is for us to bulk pages together so we can make decisions faster. Okay, page depth is something that I don't look at as of now. I don't look at it as regular as I am. So with crawl depth is basically telling us how deep the page is within a website. How many clicks does it take for a user to find, or a robot in this case, a bot, either Google or in this case Screaming Frog, to find this page. Okay, so obviously with your important pages, you want it to be able to get found quickly. And if you can see, some pages are 3 pages deep. Generally, what we like to do is we like to keep things 2 clicks away. So as long as it's 2 clicks away, it's fine. You can see some of the pages are 4 to 5 clicks away, right? And this is a little bit weird. Why is it not showing stuff? So I think, so usually when things like this happen, right, it means to say there's something wrong, something that I think I've copied incorrectly, because by right, each data should be matched up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just QC this, and this is good because this is how you actually look and not just do the audit, because you need to look at, you need to troubleshoot some of these times sometimes on your own. Okay, and if you don't do that, what's going to happen is, if I don't do this, what's going to happen is I'm going to be looking at data which is incorrect. So there's total of, let's see, there's a total of 660, which means there is 659 pages. So I should have 659 here, which I do. And then I think this section here is a little bit weird. Let me just double check. Yeah, so something is missing, something is wrong here. So I've got the address correct. Okay, what I'm gonna do is, I think what's happening is some cells are, there are multiple cells, there are multiple data within a cell. And that's why, because I only paste the values only, so that's why they get split into different columns. So I think that's what's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to relook into this again. Page type. Okay, just to make sure that it's correct. Okay, so content type, paste. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to remove this section here. And I'm going to continue. So status code 0, status code. Yep, so it's not generating a new column, so I know that it's correct. Indexability. We're gonna do title and length. Title and length. Yep, that's right. Meta descriptions. Yep, that's right already. Yep, so you can see now it's lining up. So because I think, yeah, because what happened earlier on is because I only paste special values only, this line gets split up into two different columns, and that's why it messes everything up. Okay, and you can see some of the conditional formatting is gone. And again, that's why I always, if you're working on technical audit or just SEO in general, you want to be able to learn a little bit about conditional formatting and a little bit on, the queries and how Google Sheet. Well, you don't have to be an expert. Like, I'm certainly not an expert, but these skill sets, it's really, really helpful when you're doing work like this. So what you just copy H1, all this down H1s. Yep. So now it's aligning, which is good. So next up will be canonical link. Yep, that's right. I'm gonna go word count. And we're gonna go, so crawl depth, I'm gonna ignore it because I don't usually look at crawl depth, not at the initial start anyway. So unique in links. In links. you need outlinks, and let me just see. Yep. Next up will be domain. Where is it? All right, so yeah, that's it. And now we have all the columns aligned, so that is correct. So that is essentially, yeah, so that's right now. So yeah, let's move on. So that's regards to crawl tab. Now moving on, you know, obviously the reason why we have GSC, Google Search Console data in here is because we want to look at that specific page's performance in terms of how many clicks it's getting and how many impressions it's getting, and also what is the SERP click-through rate. The reason why we have this, right, is because, like I mentioned earlier, we want to look at on a page level, which are your most performing pages, which pages which pages gets the most impressions. And the reason why we want to look at impressions is because this allows us to know what potential this specific page has. Because if a page has more impressions, this means to say it's appearing up on Google a lot more. So there must be some kind of opportunity within there, right? So this shows us that impressions. We look at clicks because of obvious reasons. Clicks is, you know, obviously the more clicks your website has, that specific page has, the more you might want to pay attention to it, because these are the pages that are getting you the most traffic. And then we look at click-through rate to see if we can optimize the SERP click-through rate, and usually SERP optimization, SERP click-through rate optimization will be with regards to changing a little bit or adding a little bit of copy to your page titles. But we want to be able to know if we need to do that for this specific page. So that's why this specific section over here, you can see these are pages performance. Okay. The next thing here, you can see these are goals. So again, which pages right now help us either generate the most form submissions or generate us the most revenue. Okay. If you have e-commerce data set up here, which you should have, because if it's your own store, you should have data like that. If you don't have, then please go ahead and watch my Google Analytics foundation video. And then the next one we'll look at is the goal conversion rate, because we want to look if, let's say, the pages get a lot of traffic but the goal conversion rate is very low, then that's something that we have to pay attention to, because just by changing a little bit on either the design or the offer, we might be able to bump that up, and that will result in a lot more e-commerce sales. And then the goal value, it's if, let's say, you type a value towards this goal. For example, if a lead is cost you an estimation of $200, you want to attach a $200 to every single goal completion. So this will tell you what's the goal value. Okay, so this is for us to monitor on a page level what is this page's performance, everything from clicks, impressions, click-through rate to goals and traffic, which is here, Google sessions. Okay, which is how many sessions does this page have from organic. Okay. Next up, what we need to look at is we need to look at user metrics. So how is this page interacting with the users? This will tell us the bounce rate, whether people are bouncing off from this website, what's the percentage, and how long people are spending on that individual page. Because if, let's say, they are spending very little time on that page, that could be an issue with it, which we might want to look at. If somebody is spending a lot of time on that page, then that shows us that the user is either consuming the site or it's at least interacting with the site because they are staying there for a little bit. So that's why we have user metrics in here. Next up will be links. So links, this will allow us to see on a page level how many links are being generated, or how many links are linking to this specific page. Again, the reason why we want to know that is because this will allow us to see if there are opportunity for us to target it with more links. So if something is high up in organic traffic, high up in the SERPs, in position 1 to 10, and they are, let's say, in position 10 and they don't have any links to it, then this is where we know that we have to, we can send some links to here because there is no links to it. Vice versa, if we see a product page that has a lot of links where the rest of the pages have none, then this is where we kind of be cautious and not do any kind of link building to this page first until we focus on the other pages to make the whole domain look overall natural. So that's why we have links in here. Okay. Next thing here, it's with regards to the specific page titles. So a little bit about on page. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at this type. You don't have to look at this because we are already filtered out by HTML. Okay, but usually you can see some form of JavaScript or certain things like that get included in here. But because we have filtered this out, I don't think so. But later on we can check it out. But this just basically tells us what this content type is. Next up will be the page title. So we need to know the title, the current title of the page, and as well as the title length. So earlier on, you can see some red colors being shown up. Okay, and the reason why is because I have done a conditional formatting, but it's gone now. And another reason for you to learn a little bit of conditional formatting, it's you can apply this, right? If the value is greater than 60, then it's going to show us as red. Okay, and then you can obviously style things up. Okay, and if it's lesser than 30, it's going to show us red as well. Okay, and the reason why is because for page titles, we want it to be between 30 to 60 characters, right? So that is how I like to do it, how our agency like to do it, because we want to keep things short, sweet, simple, and below 60 characters so it doesn't get cut out. Okay, so immediately we can find which pages have more than less than 30 and more than 60. So this is already showing us there's a couple of opportunities that we can go after here. Okay, so same with current meta description. For meta description, what we look at, it's basically anything that is where is it? Conditional formatting. So what we look at, it's if lesser than, let's say 30. Okay, and obviously you can go and style things as you like. And then if it's more, for us, meta description shouldn't be more than 155 characters. Okay, and again, this is how we like to do things. Okay, and you can see straight away from the get-go, you can see all the opportunities that are within here. So header one's not really that important. And then we just want to know if something is missing header one. And then next up will be the word count. So how many words are actually on this page? And usually if we see that a page has 0 word count or less than 500, that's why these are getting highlighted. We know that, we can definitely add some content within there if there's something that we want to rank, if that specific page is what we want to rank for, we want to increase that content. Okay. Next up, last couple of things before I break this off into another level to show you how to continue this process. Next up will be canonical link element. So if you're not sure what canonical link is, I basically explained in my previous video. Please go and watch it. But this will allow us to find out if there is any canonical link issue, because most of the time what's going to happen is for an e-commerce site, canonical links are probably one of the most common things that we identify, where it's not pointing to the correct canonical, or it's not pointing to the correct canonical. So the reason why we have canonical tag in here is because we want to check if the canonical tag for each individual page, it's being done correctly. Okay, so that is why canonical link element is here. Status code is basically for us to check which pages are live, which pages are 301, which pages are gone. Okay, and there are a few here. You can see 404, 302, 301s, and 200s. Next up will be indexability. So indexability allows us to know if this page, is it indexable or not indexable? Okay, and what we are looking for is we are looking for pages that is supposed to be indexable, needs to be indexable, and pages that are not indexable should be not indexable. And we don't want it to be the other way around. Okay, and that's why we have this here. And then internal navigation, this shows you the unique in links that's coming to this page and the number of links going out from this page. Okay, this is with regards to a little bit of our internal linking. So we want to find out if a page that we want to target, if that page has a lot of internal links, because if it doesn't, then there's an opportunity for us to drive more internal links within our website to this page, because that will give a lot more relevancy, and also how many links are going out on every individual page. So with that being said, that covers up the basic setup and what are the metrics to look at. So in the next video, what I'll be going through you step by step on how to actually classify your page. Because if you are working with a big website, thousands of websites, it's going to probably take you hours or even days to complete an audit. And bulking decisions will be able to help you make your decisions better. I learned this from somebody, and it's been tremendously helpful. So I'm going to share this with you in the next video, and you'll make your life a lot easier. And it also helps you understand the organization of your website. So with that being said, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching this. Until then, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.